The station had never felt this silent before. Hale sat alone in the dim control room of Outpost 6, listening only to the soft hum of old machines. He was a human engineer, not a fighter, not a hero. He liked quiet places, and this forgotten research station on the edge of Alliance space gave him exactly that: silence, routine, and no surprises. But that night, everything changed. Outside the thick windows, endless space stretched like a cold ocean. Wiped grease off his hands after repairing a faulty energy relay. It had taken him hours, and he was tired, hungry, and ready to sleep. He reached for his mug, now cold, when suddenly... Knock. A single sound, soft, too soft. Froze. No ship had docked. No alarms had gone off. No one should be able to walk up to the airlock door from open space. He wondered if exhaustion was playing tricks on him. But then... Knock, knock. His heart jumped. He slowly stood from his chair, every muscle tense. This station was abandoned years ago. Only an old service drone lived here now. No visitors, no crew, just a quiet man trying to fix broken machines and broken parts of his own life. He reached for his sidearm, though he wasn't good with weapons. His hands shook slightly as he made his way toward the airlock corridor. The metal walls felt colder than they should. The lights flickered, as if something on the other side was affecting the power flow. Swallowed hard and checked the monitor. Detected one small, unknown species. That didn't calm him at all. Before he could lock the door or sound an alert, the inner airlock slid open on its own. Stepped back in shock. A small figure stood there. She was wrapped in a torn dark blue cloak. The hood covered most of her face, but he could see her eyes, large, glowing faintly like stars caught in water. She looked no older than a young teenager, maybe even younger. Her skin had a soft shimmer, and her hands trembled slightly as she held the cloak around her. Aimed the sidearm, but his voice cracked. "Stop, don't move." The girl lifted her head slowly. Her expression wasn't frightened. It wasn't angry. It was calm, too calm for someone alone in a strange place. Then she spoke in a soft, steady voice that wrapped around him like warm air. "Please, don't be afraid. I need your help." Blinked, he had expected an attack, a warning, maybe even silence, but not that. Her calm request hit him harder than any threat ever could. It made him lower his weapon without even realizing it. He noticed now that she was hurt. The edges of her cloak were burned. Faint bruises marked her arms, and under her ribs there was a gentle glow, like a small, unstable light pulsing beneath her skin. His breath caught. Something was wrong with her. Something dangerous or delicate, he couldn't tell which. He stepped closer slowly. "Who are you? How did you get here?" She opened her mouth to answer, but her knees buckled. Rushed forward and caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin felt warm, as if she carried heat inside her. She whispered again, voice trembling now, though still holding that odd calmness. "Please, I didn't know where else to go." Looked into her frightened, exhausted eyes. In that moment, she didn't look like an alien or a stranger. She looked like a scared child asking for help from the first safe place she found. He lifted her carefully in his arms. "All right," he said softly. "I've got you." She rested her head against his shoulder, whispering something he barely heard. "Thank you, human." Carried her to the mind racing. Who was she? Why was she alone? What was glowing inside her chest? And most of all, who or what was she running from? As he laid her on the station lights flickered again, as if reacting to her presence. Felt something shift inside him. Fear, curiosity, and a strange, protective instinct he hadn't felt in years. This quiet outpost was no longer silent. And the knock that broke the night had also broken his peaceful life forever. Sat beside the small figure on his hands hovering over the controls of the station's basic medical scanner. The machine beeped slowly, analyzing the strange pulses coming from her chest. He didn't understand what it meant, but he could see that her body was unusual. Glowing veins of light ran beneath her skin, faint but steady. She wasn't human, but she wasn't just an alien either. She seemed fragile, yet there was a strength about her he couldn't name. She finally lifted her head, brushing a strand of dark hair from her glowing eyes. "My name is Sarai," she said softly, voice calm as if she had rehearsed it 100 times before. "I didn't mean to come here like this. I was running." Frowned, running from what? Sarai's gaze dropped to her hands, fingers laced together tightly. She seemed small, but she carried a weight in her shoulders that no child should ever bear. She whispered. "They want the core. They want it for war, for death. I cannot let them." Leaned back slightly, unsure if he had heard her right. "Core, war, what are you talking about?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "They built it to protect my people," she said, her eyes glimmering with a soft light. "But if it falls into the wrong hands, everything will end. Everyone gone." Felt a chill creep down his spine. The words were simple, but the fear behind them was not. Sarai wasn't exaggerating. Her calm voice only made it worse. It made the danger real. It made her courage real, too. She was asking for help, and she didn't even beg. She only explained. He tried to take her hand, but she pulled it back. Not because she didn't trust him, but because she didn't want him to see how afraid she really was. "I am not hurt like humans think," she said. "I am changing. My people do not fight, but I must fight or my world will end." Stared at her, feeling a weight settle in his chest. He had fixed broken machines. He had repaired energy conduits, life support modules, even starship engines. But he had never faced a living being with such fragile strength, a life that could decide the fate of thousands. "I don't know how to fight," he said quietly. "I'm not a soldier." "You are human," she said simply. "And humans fight for those who cannot. That is what makes you strong." Her words hit him harder than any weapon could. Humans had a reputation across the galaxy for courage, for resilience, had never thought of himself that way. He had always been small, ordinary, unnoticed. But here was someone, an entire species, hope, looking at him and trusting him. He swallowed, feeling his throat dry. "Then, I'll help you," he said, the words tasting heavier than he expected. "I don't know what I can do, but I'll do what I can." Sarai tilted her head slightly, studying him like she was measuring every inch of his heart. "You could leave," she said quietly. "The station is isolated. You could escape. Let me face them alone. You are human. You will not be the target." Shook his head. "I don't leave people behind," he said. The words surprised him even as they left his lips. "Not anymore, not you, not anyone." For the first time, a small smile appeared on her face. It was faint, almost sad, but genuine. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice carrying both relief and disbelief. The scanner beeped again and glanced down at the results. Energy pulses from her chest were increasing. The glow beneath her skin brightened in time with her heartbeat. Whatever she carried inside her, it was alive, and whatever it was changing her. Felt an odd mix of awe and fear. "Sarai, what's happening to you?" he asked softly. "I do not fully understand," she admitted. "The core, it chose me. It is merging with me. It is teaching me, changing me, but I am not ready. I am not strong enough." Felt a lump form in his throat. The calmness in her voice, the weight of her responsibility, it was too much for anyone, let alone someone so young. She was asking for help, not just with her life, but with the lives of thousands. She was asking a stranger to save her when even she did not know what could happen. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You won't have to face this alone," he said firmly. "I don't know how we'll stop them or what this core does exactly, but I promise I will protect you." Sarai's eyes glimmered brighter than before, tears threatening to fall. But she did not cry. She nodded once, a small motion filled with trust and cautious hope. Realized then that this quiet outpost, once filled only with routine and empty corridors, had become a place of decision, of courage, of human resolve. And standing beside him was a child who carried the weight of her people's future. For the first time in his life, understood that being human wasn't about strength or weapons. It was about choice. And in this moment, he chose to fight. And Sarai, she chose to trust him. The station hummed around them, unaware of the danger approaching. But inside that small, two lives, one human, one alien, had already become linked by courage, trust, and the unspoken promise that neither would face the coming storm alone, had just started to feel a small sense of control when the alarm suddenly screamed through the station. Red lights flickered across the metal walls, and the hum of the machinery became a low, urgent roar. His heart pounded in his chest. He ran to the control panel and quickly scanned the monitors. A ship had entered the system. No identification, no signal, no message. Just a large, dark craft moving straight toward the station. Stomach tightened. "Sarai, they're coming," he said, his voice low but tense. Sarai, sitting on the stiffened, her calm expression finally cracked, her small hands clenched into fists. She whispered, "They found me." Who are they?" asked, panic rising. He had heard stories, of course, of the merciless hunters who enslaved or killed anyone who stood in their way. But hearing it now in this quiet station made it terrifyingly real. "They are," she said softly, the words careful, like she was afraid speaking too loudly would make them hear. "They want the core inside me. It is our last hope. But if they take it, they will twist it. They will use it to destroy worlds." Swallowed hard, he glanced at her glowing chest and then back at the approaching ship. Fear coiled around him like a live wire. He knelt beside her. "Sarai, you're just a child. You can't fight them alone." She looked up at him, eyes steady despite the fear. "I don't want to fight. I never wanted this, but someone has to. You, humans, you fight even when you know the risk. That is why I came to you. I had no one else." Felt a lump form in his throat. He had never thought of himself as brave. He was just a quiet engineer, alone in a forgotten station. And yet here she was, trusting him with her life, and with something far bigger than either of them could understand. He swallowed, drawing in a deep breath. "Then we fight together." Her head tilted slightly, and for the first time noticed a flicker of hope in her glowing eyes. "Together?" she asked softly. "Together," he confirmed. He ran through the station's limited defenses in his mind. The old drones could still be powered up. The shield generators were weak but functioning. Every corridor could be sealed to slow them down. It wouldn't be much. It wouldn't be perfect. But it was something. It was a chance. Sarai stood slowly, brushing herself off, despite the exhaustion showing in the slump of her shoulders. "You could leave," she said quietly. "You are not their target. Escape now while you can. This is my burden." Shook his head. "I don't leave people behind, not anymore, not you." Her eyes widened slightly. "No one has ever said that to me," she whispered. He gave her a small, grim smile. "Well, humans are weird like that." Outside, the ship closed in, their weapons scanning the station. Could see their silhouettes moving across the viewport, tall, armored figures unmistakably dangerous. Every instinct told him to run, to hide, to surrender, but he couldn't. Not now. Not with Sarai trusting him, not with so much at stake. The first impact hit the outer hull with a deafening bang. Metal groaned under the pressure. Lights flickered. The station trembled. Grabbed Sarai's hand and pulled her to a safer corridor away from the windows. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She only looked at him, calm in a way that was almost unbearable. "I brought this danger to you," she whispered, guilt in her tone. Shook his head. "You brought nothing. The danger was already there. I'm just choosing to stand between you and it." For a moment, silence fell. The red lights reflected in her glowing eyes. She nodded slowly, accepting his words. And in that brief moment, realized something he had never thought before. Courage wasn't about having no fear. It was about standing firm despite fear. And together, they were about to face something far bigger than themselves. The ship loomed closer, tightened his fists. He was just a human, but a human with a choice. And sometimes that choice was enough, moved quickly through the corridors of the station, every step measured, every breath tense. Red emergency lights painted the metal walls in harsh streaks, and the low hum of the energy shields made the air feel alive. Outside, the ship was closing in and could feel the weight of its presence even through the thick hull. He glanced at Sarai, standing behind him, small but determined. She was wrapped in her torn cloak, eyes glowing faintly, hands clenched at her sides. Despite the fear could see in her expression, she didn't step back. She trusted him, and that trust, more than any weapon, gave him a strange sense of strength. "We don't have much time," said quietly, scanning the control panel. "The station defenses are outdated, but we can still make them work. I need you to stay close." Sarai nodded, her lips pressed tightly together. "I will do what I can," she said softly. Her voice was calm, almost eerily calm for someone about to face enemies who could kill her in seconds. Activated the old defense drones, their metal limbs creaking as they powered up. "They're slow and old, but they can buy us a few minutes. Every second counts." He rerouted power from non-essential systems to the shields, red lights flickering as energy flowed into the barriers. He worked fast, his mind racing, trying to turn every weakness in the station into a trap for the attackers. "You could leave," Sarai said quietly, watching him. Her small hands fidgeted, betraying the tension beneath her calm tone. "You don't have to do this. You could escape in the pod and I—" "No," said firmly, cutting her off. "I don't leave people behind, not anymore, not you. You're not alone in this, not ever." Her glowing eyes widened slightly, a mix of disbelief and gratitude shining through. "Humans, your stories say you fight even when you know you can't win," she whispered. "And yet, you choose to stand here." Gave a short, humorless chuckle. "Stories don't lie." For a moment, the two of them simply stood there, listening to the hum of the shields and the distant growl of the approaching ship. Felt a strange connection to her, a bond forged not by blood or shared history, but by the choice to protect another life, even when it meant putting their own in danger. He handed her a small flashlight. "Here, stay with me. We'll use every advantage we have, every dark corner, every drone, every corridor." She nodded again, the faintest smile touching her lips. I will try not to fail you," she said. "You won't," said softly. "Whatever happens out there, I won't let them take you." The station shuddered as the ship fired a warning shot, a blast of energy that rattled the walls and made the floor vibrate under their feet. Grabbed Sarai and pulled her behind a bulkhead, the sound deafening in the confined space. Her small body pressed against his, trembling slightly, but she didn't cry. She simply waited, ready to follow his lead. Caught his own breath and forced his hands steady. "Listen to me," he said. "You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for your people, and I'm right here with you. We can't control what they do, but we can control what we do." Sarai nodded, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "Together," she said firmly. "Together," confirmed. They moved quickly, sealing corridors and setting traps. The station's sensors beeped, detecting the first landing team approaching the outer docks. Gave Sarai a reassuring glance. "This is it," he whispered. "Stay close, trust me." Sarai's small hand brushed his arm. "I do," she said quietly, and in that simple word felt a surge of courage. He wasn't alone either. He had a purpose now, and it wasn't just survival, it was protecting someone who could never protect herself without him. The hum of the shields grew louder, the drones clattered into position, and the first footsteps of the echoed through the metal halls. The moment had come. The fight was about to begin. Clenched his fists, feeling fear and determination intertwine. He looked down at Sarai one last time. "We face this together," he said. She nodded, glowing slightly brighter as if acknowledging the promise. Outside, the enemy was closing in. Inside, a human and a child guardian prepared to stand, not as victims but as protectors, and knew deep in his chest that whatever happened next, he would not falter. Not while she trusted him, not while humanity's courage had a chance to shine. The night was far from over, but for the first time felt ready. The station shook violently as the first blasts hit the outer hull. Metal groaned and sparks flew from exposed conduits. Yanked Sarai behind a bulkhead, his heart racing. He had never faced anything like this, not in simulations, not in stories, not even in his worst nightmares. "They're here," Sarai whispered, her small hand gripping his arm tightly. Despite the fear in her eyes, she didn't scream. She didn't panic. She only watched the corridor ahead, glowing faintly as her pulse quickened. Swallowed hard. "Stay behind me," he said, though he wasn't sure if it would help. The old drones clattered to life with mechanical groans, their metal limbs jerking as they moved into position. They weren't much, too slow, too fragile, but they were all had. The first soldier appeared at the end of the corridor, tall and armored, weapon raised. Sidearm felt absurdly small in his hands, but he raised it anyway, hands shaking. The drone nearby spun and fired a sputtering blast of energy. The staggered slightly, then recovered, advancing relentlessly. His chest tightened. He had no training for this. No battle plan, only determination and the promise he had made to Sarai. "They'll break through," Sarai said softly, almost to herself. Her hands glowed brighter as energy began to pulse from her chest. Realized that she wasn't just scared. Her body was reacting to the danger, preparing herself somehow, though he didn't understand how. The fired again, energy beams slicing through the corridor. Ducked, feeling heat graze his shoulder. Sparks flew, and a metal panel collapsed nearby, forcing him to roll to avoid being pinned. Sarai pressed close, calm but trembling under his arm. "You could run," she whispered. "It's not your fight." Shook his head. "I told you I don't leave people behind, especially not you." Her eyes glimmered with a mixture of disbelief and awe. For a brief second, her fear was replaced with trust, and that trust became something heavier than any weapon in the corridor. It became resolve. Another soldier appeared, aiming directly at. He fired and barely managed to dodge behind a support beam. The drone attempted to intercept, but its energy sputtered and died. Felt a surge of panic. He wasn't ready for this, not really. Then Sarai moved. Slowly, deliberately, light poured from her chest, forming a protective shield around both of them. The beam from the enemy weapon hit the shield and dissolved harmlessly into glowing energy. Stared, awestruck. She's protecting us," he whispered, almost in disbelief. "Yes," Sarai replied, voice steady now despite the tremor in her body. "I can't fight like you, but I can defend, I have to." They advanced, but realized the shield's energy wasn't limitless. Sarai's small body trembled, the glow pulsing with her heartbeat. Every second, every breath was draining her, and yet she did not falter. Tightened his fists, drawing on a courage he didn't know he had. He ran toward the nearest soldier, firing wildly with his sidearm. Sparks and energy beams flew past, and the soldier staggered, distracted. Sarai's shield held just long enough. "Watch out!" she shouted as a beam grazed him. He dove behind another bulkhead, chest pounding. Her glow brightened, brighter than before, as if responding to his fear. Realized then that it wasn't just a shield, it was alive. It was tied to her emotions, her determination, and her will to survive. "They're going to break through," shouted, panic rising. Sarai's calm voice cut through the noise, commanding and clear. Then we hold together. Took a deep breath. He could feel the fear, the danger, the overwhelming odds, but he also felt something new, hope. They were not helpless, not while she trusted him, not while he had the courage to stand beside her. The first fell back, confused and disoriented by the shield and the human's reckless bravery. Realized that together they were more than a child and an engineer. They were a team. They were a force. The station quaked again as another blast shook the corridors but gritted his teeth and stood taller. He looked at Sarai, glowing faintly but unwavering. "We won't let them take you," he said firmly. She nodded, her small hand brushing against his arm. "I know, that is why I trusted you." In that moment understood something profound. Courage didn't need to be perfect. It didn't need training or skill. It only needed the choice to stand, even when fear threatened to crush you. And tonight, in the quiet of a fragile station on the edge of space, humanity's courage would be tested, and would shine brighter than any weapon. The station shook with another blast and stumbled as the floor vibrated beneath his boots. They were relentless. Their heavy footsteps echoed through the narrow corridors, and the metallic clang of their weapons made his ears ring. He glanced at Sarai. Her small form glowed brighter than ever, the pulsing light now extending beyond her chest and wrapping around her like a protective cocoon. "I feel it," she whispered, her voice strained but steady. "The core, it's waking. I can feel it inside me." His heart skipped a beat. He had known something was unusual about her from the start, the glow beneath her ribs, the strange pulses, but he had never imagined this. What does it do?" he asked, voice low, almost afraid of the answer. Sarai shook her head. "I don't fully understand. It is alive. It chooses its guardian. It is teaching me, giving me strength, but it's too much. I'm not ready." Stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're stronger than you think," he said softly. "Even if you don't believe it, even if you're scared, strength isn't just in weapons or training. It's in heart. It's in standing when everyone expects you to fall." Her glowing eyes met his, filled with both fear and trust. I don't want to hurt anyone," she whispered. I just want to survive." "You won't have to face it alone," said firmly. "I promised, remember, I'm here together, we can do this." They were close now. Could hear their weapons clanging against the metal walls, their armored figures moving like shadows toward the... He grabbed a nearby metal pipe and held it like a weapon. It was nothing compared to the guns, but it was all he had. Sarai's glow intensified, radiating outward in waves. Her body trembled with the effort of controlling it. Realized that whatever the core was, it wasn't just a tool. It was alive. It was responding to her emotions, her fear, her courage, and now to the human who had chosen to stand with her. "They're coming," shouted, bracing himself against the wall. The first soldier stepped into the corridor, swung the pipe with all his strength, but it barely grazed the enemy. The soldier advanced, raising his weapon. Sarai stepped forward, raising her hands, and the light burst outward like a wave. The soldier was thrown back, hitting the wall with a heavy clang. His breath caught. He had seen weapons do damage, but this was alive. It was protective, almost gentle, and yet terrifyingly powerful. "You're doing it," whispered, awe in his voice. "You're really doing it." Sarai shook her head, sweat on her brow. "I don't know if I control it or if it controls me," she admitted. "It's overwhelming, but I can't stop." Another soldier came around the corner, fired his sidearm wildly, hitting nothing but sparks. Sarai raised her hands again, and the light flared, pushing the soldier backward with a force could feel through the floor. Each pulse of energy seemed to drain her, yet she stood firm. Felt a strange mix of fear and pride. This small girl, barely more than a child, was holding back an army with nothing but courage and the unknown power inside her. She was human in spirit, even if her body was. "I can't hold it forever," she whispered, voice trembling now. "If they break through—" "They won't," interrupted, stepping closer. "Because we're here together, you're not alone, not now, not ever." Her glowing eyes met his, tears threatening to fall. For the first time, her fear and determination merged into something pure. The core pulsed harder, brighter, and the light wrapped around them both like a shield. They staggered back, unable to advance. Realized then that it wasn't just her power, it was her courage, amplified by trust. The bond between them created a force neither of them fully understood, but one that was stronger than the enemy in the corridor. "I thank you," she whispered. "You believed in me." "No," he said softly, his voice steady. "I just stood in front of a brave heart, that's all it took." They paused, uncertain, their confidence shaken. And in that moment knew something profound. Humanity's courage wasn't in weapons or in armor or in technology. It was in choosing to protect another life, even when the odds were impossible. Sarai's glow dimmed slightly as she caught her breath, the pulse of the core now steadier, more controlled. She looked at, small but resolute. We can do this," she said. Smiled, the first real smile he had felt in days. "Yes," he said firmly, "we can." And outside the advanced again, unaware that the fight they thought would be easy was about to become a lesson in courage, human and alien together. The leader stepped into the corridor, towering and armored, his weapon raised and glowing with deadly energy. Tightened his grip on the battered plasma cutter he had grabbed earlier. It wasn't much, just a human tool, but in his heart it felt like a sword forged for this exact moment. "You will hand over the core," the leader growled, voice cold and merciless. "The child will not survive the process anyway. Resistance is meaningless." Stepped forward, planting his feet firmly. His chest heaved and his hands shook slightly, but he did not retreat. "Over my dead body," he said, voice steady despite the fear gripping him. Sarai floated slightly above the floor, the core inside her chest glowing brightly. Her body trembled with energy, but her eyes were fixed on the leader. "I won't let you take it," she whispered, voice soft but full of unshakable resolve. The leader sneered, raising his weapon. "Then you will die." Before could react, Sarai's chest erupted with brilliant light. The glow spread outward like a living wave, bending the air and pushing the enemy soldiers back. The corridor shook under the sheer force of it, shielded his eyes, heart racing. This light wasn't just power, it was life, it was courage, it was hope made visible. He could feel it wrap around him, protective and warm. Sarai's energy pulsed with every heartbeat, responding to his fear, his determination, and his promise to protect her. Realized then that the bond between them was stronger than any weapon, stronger than any fear, stronger than themselves. The leader stumbled backward, blinded by the light. His soldiers fell around him, disarmed, confused, powerless against a force they could not understand. Felt a surge of pride. Not in himself, not in the weapons, but in what humanity could do when it chose to stand and protect another life. Sarai's voice rang out, calm and commanding. "We will not be defeated, not by you, not today." Took a deep breath, stepping closer to her. "I told you," he said softly, "you're not alone, and you never will be." The leader raised his weapon again, but it was too late. Sarai's light expanded, a brilliant, blinding surge that filled the corridor and forced the enemy to retreat. The station trembled as the glow wrapped around and Sarai like a shield, repelling everything they had brought to destroy them. When the light faded, they were gone, unconscious or fleeing, their weapons melted, their armor cracked. Silence returned to the corridor, broken only by ragged breathing. He looked down at Sarai. Her small body floated slightly, exhausted but alive, her glow now gentle and steady. "You did it," said, voice filled with wonder. "You saved yourself and all of us." Sarai blinked slowly, a weak smile forming. "No, we did it," she said softly, "together." Knelt beside her, careful not to hurt her fragile form. She looked at him with gratitude, relief, and something else. Hope. "You humans, you carry such fierce hearts," she whispered. Chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Yeah, sometimes we do. It gets us into trouble, but it also saves people." She nodded, eyes closing briefly. "I will never forget this, never forget you." The station's emergency crews began to respond to the distress signal, arriving cautiously to find the once threatening corridor empty of enemies, save for the human who had stood firm and the small alien who had chosen to fight together. Lifted Sarai gently, carrying her toward the where she could rest. For the first time that night, he felt a profound sense of peace. The battle was over. The impossible had been survived. And in that quiet, realized something he had always known but never truly understood until now. Being human wasn't about strength, skill, or power. It was about courage. It was about choosing to protect another life, to stand when it seemed hopeless, and to act when no one else would. Sarai stirred in his arms, glowing faintly, and whispered, "You gave me courage, and I will carry it with me." Smiled, feeling the warmth of her words. "And you gave me hope," he said. "Hope that even the smallest choice can make the biggest difference." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent yet beautiful, and in that vast darkness, two lives, human and alien, had become proof that courage, compassion, and the human spirit could shine brighter than any weapon, any army, or any fear. Sometimes realized, a knock on a lonely door could change everything. And sometimes, standing for another life, even when it seems impossible, is the truest definition of being human.